Pastor Jack was here, would you be up for leading the prayer? Okay. All right, folks, I'm 2 minutes late. You'll have to excuse me. We're going to go ahead and get rolling here. Are you going to get Pastor Jack? Oh, great. If he's got time. If not, Brian will do it. We're going to give Pastor Jack a minute, see if he can come say the blessing, and if not, Brian has been volunteered to do it.
You see that across my cheek line? Yeah. Those same locusts, the black locusts. So we were driving T-boats yesterday, and I cut one of them down, and then it came just, well, it got me on the hand, those things are vicious. I had one of those things fall down on me when I was cutting it down, and it came down on the back, so it catched my head.
Sorry to bother you. You mind?
One of those things. Okay.
Yeah. All right, folks. We now have a pastor here, so we're going to have the prayer, and then we'll do the pledge.
Man, it's good to have everybody here today. These are very important meetings. There's been a lot of great victories lately, but the fight's still on. So we need God's guidance and we need God's help. Father, Lord, we just want to thank you for Oklahoma Second Amendment. And Father, we ask your blessing over it and over this meeting today. Lord, guide us and direct us, give us your wisdom, and thank you for the victories you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ken, would you lead us in the pledge?
I'm glad to. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, I got a few introductions to make. First off, we've got a surprise VIP guest. This is Representative Ken Luttrell, District 37, Eastern K County, and Osage. That's and he's going to address us here shortly as surprise speaker. Going to tell us a little bit about what went on with the redistricting this year on the special section. As always, Stephen Phipps back there in the audio-visual booth. Bless his heart. This wouldn't happen without Stephen. Pastor Jack, of course, always absolute gracious, accommodating, friendly host. I couldn't ask for a better venue, and I really appreciate it. And then Joshua. Oh, there he is. All right. This is Joshua Reel. He's with the U.S. Law Shield, and he's going to be talking with us later. And I'm hoping I can get him to spend a few minutes telling you what you should and shouldn't do, God forbid you're ever involved in a self-defense situation using any kind of legal weapon. First off, I need a show of hands. Who's rooting for OSU this evening? OU. OSU's got a bit of an edge. Not surprised since that's the closest. That was my one-year alma mater. I went to NOC my first year of college, 65, 66, majored in history. And then I transferred down to Stillwater for my second year, and I changed my major to Coors. And I aced my major. I was 18 years old, and I got a job tending bar. 2 weeks after my 19th birthday, they made me night manager. They paid off the local city and county officials. So at that time in Stillwater, when you ordered a beer and they wanted to see an ID, it had to be a college ID. They wouldn't let us serve any high school kids. In fact, I got to tell this story. The guy that ran the bar that I worked for ran an illegal poker game 2 nights a week at his house, part of his payoff. Well, I'd close the bar at midnight and go over there and tend bar. They played one of their games, ran 43 hours straight. Guys would drive 200 miles and sit down in 1966 with $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to play poker. The biggest pot I saw ever come off that table, it was a high-low split game called 727. When the high and low man split the pot, in 1966, they took each over 34 grand off of the table. that would be well into the six figures these days. I'm a 19-year-old kid. My eyes are like this. It's like I was living in a movie. And I tell that story every chance I get. Anyway, should be a great game tonight. First off, I want to announce the K County Sheriff, Steve Kelly. He spoke at my Tuesday meeting in Tonkawa on December 11 at 9 a.m. They're having a sheriff's auction in Blackwell. They've got over 300 confiscated and lost and found guns that are going to be on sale for auction. So it's 9 o'clock and it's on. It's
13th.
the 13th. Okay. Oh, it's on 13th. Yeah, I don't know where on 13th, but I think it's just south of Doolin, and where those metal buildings are. If you get there at 8:15, you won't have any trouble finding it. There's going to be cars.
It's south of the hospital.
It's south of the hospital.
The big metal building south of the hospital.
North of the hospital. Okay, good. So that'll be something if you're, even if you're not in the market, who knows what kind of deal you might fall into over there.
Territory, there's a list on Nicholson's website.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Homer Nicholson's going to be the auctioneer, and he's got a list of all the weapons. I haven't seen that.
See down there? Yeah.
Okay. Also, in case you're curious, the reason I'm wearing this, I spoke at a meeting in Nash, Oklahoma. It's about 40 miles west of Tonkawa last Thursday. I was physically assaulted after I spoke. I had a guy follow me around the room for 10 minutes, getting louder and more belligerent. The people that ran the meeting did zero to nip it in the bud till he took me down. Probably. Well, I'll tell you what he was upset about. He was upset because he didn't think he was getting enough text messages and emails from OK2A. He started complaining to me as soon as I came down from the podium. So I said, here, get your phone out. I'll get you signed up for... No. Okay, no problem. But I'd given everybody my card. I said, you've got my card, send me your contact information. I'll send you written instructions. Hell no, I ain't going to do that. So at that point, I was done talking to this guy. And he followed me around the room for 10 minutes. People around the meeting didn't do anything. So the name, in fact, in case anybody gets invited to speak there, you hear one of their meetings, it's called the Sons and Daughters of Liberty. They have meetings in Enid. And this one was in Nash. I assume that's their regular meeting. So anyway, chances are the guy, I'm not going to ever see the guy again, but he lives in Grant County, so I thought, I've got this, I might as well, just to be on the safe side. So that's the reason. Everybody loves Terry. Scott, stand up for a minute. Everybody, I got another introduction. This is Scott Jessen. He's one of our coordinators out of Garfield County. That's Enid, and he's been doing a great job over there. You and Doug didn't have that experience when you spoke at their meeting in Enid.
They were all fantastic.
Yeah. Everybody was fantastic except one guy, but what bothered me is they didn't do anything to head it off. In fact, I know his brother-in-law, and I asked his brother-in-law to do something, and he just shook his head. So anyway, just FYI. I've got a pretty involved thing that I'm going to be talking about, but I'm going to turn the floor over to our Representative Ken Luttrell to give us an update on what's going on with the redistricting. Thanks a lot, Ken.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, sure.
I'll be brief and just give you an update on District 37, which is Eastern K County and Osage County. When they did the population count, we knew that District 37 had lost about 4,000 people in population, that we were going to have to expand and pick up some more people to have our count. Because our count for a state representative this year has to be 39,000 people, up from 37 before. And the way that we did it here in my district was we had an estimated count that we did the district by, what I would like to see, and then from our community meetings, the input from our communities, like Fairfax, Pawhuska, Shidler, Ponca City, and put all that information together to try and craft a district that was all-inclusive without terrible barriers to break up the district or anything. Try to use natural features such as rivers and highways to break up the district and make it compact as we could get it. My actual estimate and the actual count were only 16 people different, so I didn't have to go in and be redistricted again. I was one of only 2 districts that didn't have to do it all over again as they moved the lines for the rest of the state. So District 37 now looks like, to me, it's my dream district. It's all of the Big Bend area, including Fairfax, follows the river around to the city limits of Hominy, north, gets both sides of the street in Pawhuska now. I only had the north side before. About a half a mile to a mile east of Pawhuska, and then everything north to the state line from Kildare to Pawhuska. 1,566 square miles. Of course, there's not a lot of voters in some of that country, but the people of the district are really happy. Fairfax is happy to be on this side of the river and not in the district across the river. Pawhuska is extremely happy to be united and be in one district and not have to be split between 2 to 3 different representatives over there. So the people are happy, I'm happy, I hope that you all are happy with it, and I appreciate everyone that contacted us with input on how they thought the district would look or should look or what they would like to see. And as always, my office always appreciates hearing from you with your cares, concerns, and your issues. It's my pleasure to serve you, and I appreciate you, so thank you.
It was a surprise attendee, and I really appreciate you coming very much. Okay, let me get my as it's said in my announcements, my subject today is a program called Social Emotional Learning, known as SEL. Has anybody in here heard of social emotional learning? Okay. Folks, it's CRT light, if not CRT full blown. I'm going to keep this as concise as I can. The way SEL has been defined, it's the process by which children and adults acquire effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. Doesn't sound too bad, huh?
They used to do that with paddles when I was younger.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I got my name on one of those.
But the one word that was not mentioned in that description is academics. Reading, writing,
Arithmetic.
Math. Yes. SEL posits that education should focus less on academic content, knowledge, and more on students' attitudes, mindsets, values, and behaviors. Folks, this ain't how you educate a generation. This is how you indoctrinate a generation. This is now pushed onto the state and local education systems by the federal government and even some international governmental entities. Other progressive education forces include the purveyors of widely used preschool standards are equally enthusiastic. SEL is interwoven into education movements such as Common Core, state standards, and competency-based education. Has anybody heard of those? Oh, Common Core was a big story here a while back. Basically, it's my understanding what they did is they changed the name of it and put it in effect anyway. The problem is there's no reliable objective way to measure a student's personality, values, or mindsets. And even the experts cannot agree on a uniform definition of what SEL is. This is all a joke. The goal of SEL is to turn our schools into instruments that separate children from their parents' religion and replace it with atheist, self-focused morality. This raises a question about the future of public read government. They're not public schools, folks. We're the public. The schools are the government schools. Quote from a woman of 5 in Connecticut. I feel like the school's teaching what I should be teaching, values, attitudes, and mindsets, and I'm teaching what the school should be teaching, math. That's the situation we're dealing with. With the backing of the federal government, the education and technology industry is creating a sophisticated software that supposedly can determine the most sensitive personality traits of students via their interaction with digital platforms. This software, and especially software for video gaming, it goes beyond assessing traits. It, in fact, reshapes the child to fit the desired mold of the government. It's a long-term plan. The SEL movement implicates all of these questions. They go beyond encouraging students to do their best and believe in themselves. Instead, it constructs a government and corporate-controlled edifice to measure, assess, and draw predictions from the students' most fundamental private and personal characteristics. Instead of policies promoting two-parent families formation, and instead of continued subsidy of family destruction, thousands of years of experience, much social science research, and common sense show that this is the best way both to promote social emotional health and maintain liberty. This is after our liberty, folks. That's what they're doing. This program is in effect in the Tonkawa schools now. The school board and the administration there, I've heard 3 different stories, but they had a meeting 6-8 weeks ago. I attended. I've got 3 people that were at the meeting that would sign affidavits. They announced then that it was part of the program in Tonkawa this year. In fact, I got into a hassle with the guy who publishes the newspaper over there about this, about a quote that was in the Ponca City paper, my remarks on this. SEL, instead of focusing on genuine academic achievement via standards, assessments, and curriculum, they instead, it's a kind of just a pop psychology and diluted academic content, and this is imposed by federal, state foundations, and corporate interests. Read the Gates Foundation. They're big into this. The first foothold SEL gained in the federal law came in the Goals 2000 Educate America Act, signed by President Bill Clinton. Everybody remember President Clinton? 1994. This contains 8 goals. The 2 most relevant are, number 1, concerning preschool. It states, and this is a quote, by the year 2000, all children in America will start school ready to learn. Now, that sounds like this is a goal related to children being ready to learn. But academic subjects such as letters, numbers, colors, etc., that wasn't the intent of this progressive movement. They wanted young children to be ready to learn government instilled attitudes, values, and beliefs, and this is their goal number 8. By the year 2000, this again is a quote, by the year 2000, every school will promote partnerships that will increase parental involvement and participation in promoting the social, emotional, and academic growth of children. Now in this one, they at least mentioned academics, but it was the last thing on the list. The Federal Head Start program, I'm sure you've all heard of that. That's also involved with the SEL. It's important to note that the Head Start Act conflicts with other federal laws that prohibit federal direction or control over school curriculum. The General Education Provisions Act, GEPA, forbids it. And the Head Start Act itself prohibits HHS involvement in curriculum. Well, it's like a lot of government rules, they just ignore it, and they write this stuff so complicated. I've got about 9 or 10 hours. I've just gone, and I've not even gone through half of the materials I've collected already connected with this. It'll put you to sleep. But again, that's one of the reasons they do it, is so people don't pay attention. They are emphasizing molding children's mind specs with respect to diversity. The practices adopted in 2009 deal with bias by warning. Again, a quote. For example, even a child in a loving, supporting family within a strong, healthy community is affected by the biases of the larger society, such as racism or sexism, and may show some effects of its negative stereotyping and discrimination. So they're going in assuming that everybody, children, are racist. Again, this is another part of their plan. We hear this all over. The first thing you hear if you're a conservative and you're disagreeing with a liberal, what's the first thing they say? You're a racist. So this is just no surprise here. Examples from other publications by this national group shows that its position on this issue has remained consistent both before and since the adoption of the practices document. In 1989, this is their definition of whites. All the different national groups of European origin who, as a group, are disproportionately represented in the control of the economic, political, and cultural institutions of the United States. Now, that was 1989. This is their definition in 2010. Remember now, it's almost 12 years ago. Definition of whites: a socially created racial, in quotes, group who historically and currently receive the benefits of racism in the United States. The category includes all the different ethnic groups of European origin, regardless of the differences in their histories, ethnicities, or cultures. So here it is almost 12 years ago. Anybody that's white is a racist. And it's gone further than that now. Common Core Standards in Social Emotional Learning. The most recent federally driven experiment in public education is Common Core State Standard Initiative, which produced K through 12 standards that were released in 2010 and adopted by most states in an effort to qualify for federal funding. Folks, this is how the feds do this. You do it the way we want. Everybody, who in here is old enough to remember the 55-mile-an-hour speed limits on the interstates? The reason states went with that is the feds said either do it or we'll cut off your federal funding for your highways. You take money from them, they've got their hands around your throat. Anyway, despite promises by the proponents that Common Core would be academic and rigorous, documentation demonstrates that a number of the standards would be used not for academic advancement, but for psychological training. Let me repeat that. Psychological training of children starting at a young age. So apparently second graders are expected to demonstrate social and emotional skills that many adults can't manage. An Education Week article discussed how SEL is being infused into academic subjects to motivate students towards political action. Given this was published in 2017, so presumably these lessons are aligned with Common Core standards for use in most public school classrooms. Social emotional learning proponents enthuse that reading or math lessons can teach students to see their personal challenges as part of a wider struggle where people work together to bring about change. This is what the teachers call social justice. It's in the schools, folks. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as I mentioned, they're the world's most generous funder of Common Core and related education initiatives. Carnegie Corporation, we've all heard of them, is another one. In fact, they were one of the major funders for the Progressive Education Clause, and they've been doing that for decades. Another an acronym, Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, which was touted as returning educational autonomy to the states. Now, in fact, this contains a myriad of provisions that cement federal control or at least influence. One education component strongly pushed by the ESSA is social emotional learning. It contains multiple provisions that affect early childhood standards and curricula. And those provisions encourage, in some cases, mandate the inclusion of SEL. SEL is more than just early childhood programs by pouring money into a wide array of initiatives based on SEL. The language urges school officials to cast a wide net for special educations, allowing schools to sidestep parental consent requirements for formal evaluations. These SEL-related programs are frequently directed towards children who are deemed at risk without ever defining what at risk is. So it's a catch-all. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard these stories going around now about obscene books being required reading in elementary schools all over the country. I know there's many school systems have banned and removed Huckleberry Finn from the school library. If anybody's ever read that book...
Story time's okay.
Yeah.
Can't make it up.
They give instructions on sexual practices in grade school. Anybody that's read Huckleberry Finn, the hero of the book is Jim, the black guy, the slave that runs away with the boys. He's the hero of the book. But that's not the only book. To Kill a Mockingbird has been banned in many school systems. Folks, has anybody seen the films of Joseph Goebbels and the Germans throwing books onto the flaming pyres in Germany? Now they don't need a pyre, they just delete it from the computer.
And censor you.
Yes, and censor you. It's what it's all about. It's all about free speech as long as you agree with them.
That's right.
Yeah. Many of the SEL performance will even admit that it's not ready for prime time, in quotes, not ready for prime time, but they're still determined to forge ahead with it. Specifically, assessing social emotional characteristics violates governing statutes itself, which forbids tests that, quote, evaluate or assess personal or family beliefs. The governing statute requires that assessments objectively measure academic achievement, knowledge, and skills. Now, the new SEL-based survey questions manifestly do not do that. One of these programs, the goal is to measure students' performance in 5 broad domains known to the psychologists as the Big 5 model. Number 1, emotional regulation. Number 2, how extroverted they are. Agreeableness, task performance, and open-mindedness. The theory on this is that these traits are malleable and can be taught, and the goal is to mold students into the people most useful for the government. It's not about teaching them how to think for themselves. It's teaching them how to fit in with what the government wants in the future generations. This is what's coming, folks. One of these programs even requires they come to your home and interview you and inspect your home to determine if you're following through on the SEL procedures in your home. Folks, this stuff is, that's what I'm just about halfway through with. And I apologize for reading. I usually don't have to read, but this stuff is so complicated. Folks, you need to be careful. I don't know here. I was told that SEL is in the Ponca City Schools. That was Volker at one of our GOP meetings. I don't know that for a fact, but I've attended now 3 of the school board meetings in Tonkawa. I encourage everybody, if this concerns you, go to a school board meeting. And of course, then you get the benefit of having the FBI come through your door with a battering ram. Did everybody hear about the mother up in Colorado, Grand Junction? They call her America's First Mom. She had a website. She'd been very, very active with the school board and in local politics. 9:30 in the morning, the FBI, 29-man SWAT team from the FBI in full battle gear.
Like Roger Stone.
Yeah, just like Roger Stone.
Horrible for us. Came
through the door. The article I read, they had interviewed 7 retired FBI agents, several of whom had been on their SWAT team. When they were with the FBI, they never used the SWAT team or battering ram entry unless they were dealing with a violent subject. This woman was in the house teaching her 3 children homeschooling. They put her and her husband in handcuffs, and they drug her 18-year-old daughter up a stairway by her hoodie. This is what's happening, folks. The people, the school board in Tonkawa, we're so glad you're here, Terry. Yeah, that's exactly the reaction, is a laugh. That's what they say. I know they're not. And, but that's, you know what, that's okay. I'm used to people not liking me. I've got a real knack for that, as many of you already know. Right, Brian? That's one of my many talents, and it's not a hidden talent. Well, I've been fortunate. 30 years, one-man business, over 30 years living alone, and I've never been in a position where I had to play whatever politically correct game was going on. When I had my business, the only person I had to worry about was one customer at a time, and I was always in a position, if I wanted to walk out, I could, or if they threw me out, I could. Anyway, I'm going to be spending more time on this, but I'm going to do this in probably about 5-minute bites each month, because I apologize if this got boring, and I feel bad that I had to read it, but it's so complicated. Again, they're doing it on purpose. Questions? Yes, sir, Ron.
How do you shut it down?
Well, going to school boards is a first step. Voting the right people into office, checking your representatives in Washington and in the capital of Oklahoma City, making sure on the issues that are important to you. Number 1, you need to let them know. And number 2, see how they vote. And then that needs to help you make your decision next election time. Because my guess is pretty much everybody down there wants to get reelected except the one that are terming out, right? Do you know anybody that's stepping down?
Just one, but that's marital issues, I think.
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it. Now, you know what? There's no magic bullet fix for this, Ron. Nothing's going to fix it tomorrow morning. They've been at this basically my whole life, and I'm 74 years old. And I've seen it progress very slowly. The advantage the left has over the right is the right wants everything done tomorrow morning. And the left will take it a quarter of an inch at a time. And if it takes them 50 or 100 years, yeah, they're on a century time frame, and we're on an hour time frame. But I wish I had a better answer, but that's basically what it is. Question? Yes, go ahead.
There's a couple of things you mentioned. One is this new bill, this, was it 2.7 or 3.7 bill? In it reverses parents' rights and gives it to the government in the school system. That's part of the bill.
That's in Washington or in the Capitol?
In D.C.
Yeah, well,
The bill is coming up, the Senate, it just passed, and it's coming in the House, and now it's gonna be passed in the Senate.
so what is it, House Bill 307?
I didn't bring my book.
Okay, well, I'm shocked to find out that they're passing stuff in Washington I don't agree with. Who would have thought? They forgot to call me. Did you see my picture with the governor online? Wasn't it nice of me? He asked to get a picture with me. Yeah, Joe.
So, I've done some reading on this, a while back.
Good.
I think part of it is that they're, you know how Facebook and other social media companies have these algorithms that kind of
Right.
determine behavior and stuff like that?
Right.
I think that that's kind of how the SEL is kind of working, that they're taking data in the form of just how they interact with their students in classrooms and recording that, but also surveys. And I don't know if any of you guys have school-age children, but even here in Ponca, this year, I think 8th grade and 10th grade, or maybe 12th, I'm not sure, have surveys that they're going to be doing. And so if you have kids or know people that are in school, you know, the less the school, from my point of view, the schools are only my kids' name. But, so if they have surveys to do, like my daughter brought one home, I haven't looked at it yet to see, well, I haven't seen the survey, it's a permission form. Tell them no. Don't let them do the surveys.
Yeah.
The kids.
The kids.
Yeah.
My son did one recently. He's a ninth or 10th grader.
Yeah, 10th grade, yeah.
Yeah, and they plot it like it's trying to find out what their personality type is
Yeah.
for jobs.
That's SEL.
SEL, exactly.
Yeah, they're asking the questions like they're trying to figure out what career is best for my son, but the way they ask the question
But they're
is
just-
very odd.
Yeah, they're gathering information about our kids that they don't have any business knowledge. Here is the end. So, I mean, and it comes on everything. You know, we all have our right to privacy. If you want to participate in their games, go ahead.
But it's something they used in DHS too. When I was on DHS.
But like Terry said.
They gave a similar survey quiz to try and figure out what you should be doing and what they should send you to school for.
But like Terry said, anytime you get a handout from the government, you're at their friggin' mercy.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great suggestion. Just refuse to do the surveys because it ain't for the kids' benefit or your benefits. And like I said, one of these is tied with home visits. And they ain't coming to tell you how good a job you're doing. They're coming, and no telling where that could lead, folks.
So at
Yes.
the beginning of the year, if you have a kid in Ponca High School or the elementary schools, at the beginning of the year, they sent home a form asking if they can provide medication or medical treatment. Make sure you read those very well because they're going to use that to force vaccines on our children.
Well, also, I doubt this is going on here, but there's been many school districts that have taken 14-year-old girls in for an abortion without even notifying the parents. The schools, they can't give a kid an aspirin at school, but they can take them in for an abortion without telling the parents. Folks, this is everywhere. I think the U.S. is in more danger now than we've ever been, including 1860.
No doubt.
Because there was kind of a border there. There was a lot of overlap and mixing, but it was the South and the North. Here, our enemies are all through the power structure. The FBI has become a political police force. Antifa and BLM, they're doing exactly what the brown shirts, the early Nazis, they called them brown shirts. They were the Sturm Allbad-Team, anyway, SA. And there's many films of it. They went on the street, anybody they had a political disagreement with, They physically attacked them, in some cases killed them, and the police stood by. Now, the German police were standing by primarily because they agreed with the Nazis. The police in American cities are standing by because we've got corrupt communist municipal administrations, mayors and city councils that are ordering them to stand down. Folks, where we got this way, George Soros has been pumping millions of dollars for the last 15 or 20 years into local elections. Mayors, city council, county commissioners, judges, DAs especially. This whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, that was prosecutorial misconduct. But these people were put in power by George Soros's money. And I'll tell you what, you come in a municipal election and donate a couple of $1 million, you're going to bury the competition. There's nobody running for mayor in a town the size of Ponca City or Enid or maybe even Oklahoma City or Tulsa can get that kind of a war chest. And when they take that kind of money, they're going to do what they're told when they get a call from Soros. Soros and Gates, and there's a slew of them. The guy, Progressive Insurance, if you have insurance or Progressive Insurance, I suggest you shop because a guy named Lewis owns it, and he's in bed with Soros and with the Gates Foundation. So they're coming at, Dan Bongino calls this the 30-front war, and that's exactly what it is. They're coming at us from every direction on the compass. Okay, any other questions? Yes? What?
Steve said in our Tuesday meeting that K Electric found that camera on the pole.
Oh.
Remember he was talking about that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you were there, yeah.
Steve, like, what, he was gonna put the camera out here and turned it up to the FBI?
Yeah.
Where at?
He didn't say where.
It's on a K Electric pole.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I guess Steve.
After January 6th, there was a thing, I don't know if it was a neighbor messing with me, or if it was legit or not, but my TV, when I turned it on, would pop up a Wi-Fi signal, FBI surveillance. True story. Like I said, I don't know if that was one of my neighbors messing with me because they knew I was there.
Yeah, I mean,
Or if that's...
my hot spot's cold, it burns when I pee. So I pee like
freely.
I thought you were referring to something
No,
else.
I'm just saying you can name
IP.
it whatever you want.
Right.
And people do it for fun because they'll
Right.
go in like FBI surveillance man just to mess with people.
Sure, but in my direct area, there's not that many sophisticated people. I mean, to be able to even know how to do that, I'm just saying. I know how, you know how. Most people don't. And knowing my direct neighbors, somebody I was going to pick up a signal from.
What you got?
Folks, look at this.
That's awesome.
Isn't that nice?
That's beautiful.
Sherry Fields, who's a recently retired Sherry Fields, made this and has donated it to OK2A. I'm going to talk to Don Spencer. We'll have an auction or a raffle or something. And let's show the back here real quick.
Wait.
Hold on, Terry. Trying to get a photo right there.
Take pictures.
Shit. Jerry grumbled, but it's crooked.
Yeah. I need longer arms. Give me something to stand on. Oh, sure.
Got your stilettos, didn't they?
All right, now you turn around.
Don't tempt him.
I'm going to accommodate the
When it
press.
goes on his own time, it's not my business.
And on the back, it says,
Here. Rotate here.
OK2A. Here. OK2A made by Sherry Jeffries, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you so much.
I got longer arms.
Yeah, thanks.
So how do we get one of those?
Well, that's what I got to figure out how they want to do it, raffle or perhaps the Boots and Bling might be a good place for that. There's going to be some people down there with money, and it's always better to try and sell something to people that have money.
That's right.
That's one of the basic rules. All right, I'm going to turn the floor over to Brian for a little while, and then we'll have Joshua come up and give you all some advice that might keep your tail out of jail.
Well, that's always a good thing.
Oh, yes.
So, as Terry was just talking about, I guess if you want a possible opportunity to bid on this pretty awesome quilt, we're going to be having an event for the Republican Party in Oklahoma City, December 10th. It's a Friday from 6 to 8, and be barbecue. We'll have Nathan Dahm will be there speaking. Jackson Lawmeyer will be there speaking. Frank Urbanek will be there speaking for, he's running for Oklahoma City mayor. And not sure outside of that. Of course, I'll be there and I'll be speaking some. I think I'm going to be emceeing this thing. I got thrown to the wolves on that deal last week. So, yeah.
I must have missed that call.
Hey, we'll sneak in, Terry. I know you like your 2 minutes. But I'm at 20. But anyway, so if you guys can make it down, it should be a great time. I guess I should have brought a flyer. I didn't think about it. Anyway, anybody, I'll put it out on social media, on the Republican page, Facebook. That way, if anybody wants the information, address, whatever,
What's the address?
I'll have to pull it up. It's the Redneck Yacht Club is the bar. You should be able to pull it up on maps or anything else.
Everyone has my card. Call me or text me, and I'll send you the.
Yeah, we'll get you the
address,
actual
date,
physical
time,
address.
everything. Oh.
It's right across the street from Whitewater in Oklahoma City. There we go. It's 4720 West I-40 Service Road, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
What road?
I-40
I-40 Service Road, 4720. I think the tickets are $25 to get in. That, like I said, that comes with barbecue and whatnot, and hopefully some dancing and some fun. So.
And I'm going to be there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Terry, you heard it here first. So buy your tickets now. So as you heard it here first. So buy your tickets now in order to see Terry before they sell out.
Now you know why he's a friend.
Anyway, okay. Other than that, I'm trying to think. Are there any topics we wanted to cover? I'll just give you guys a brief update because some of you guys I see at the Republican side and some I don't. And that is, well, I might encourage you, again, in December, we'll be doing the third Thursday instead of the fourth Thursday of the month at Pioneer Votech because of holidays again. And then January, we'll go back to the fourth Thursday of the month. And I'd like to say a friend of mine, Representative Sean Roberts, former chairman of the Health Committee at the House of Representatives, I get to help him on some stuff. And we had some doctors in to the Capitol. There was a whole boondoggle on a what do you call it, interim study that got canceled. I don't think that some people maybe wanted to hear what these doctors had to say, and these are not. I mean, these are very intelligent people. You can tell by having a conversation with them. Dr. Eric Snyder was one. Dr. Amy, what's her last name? Now I'm going to forget hers. Anyway, they came in and did a kind of a informational study in the Capitol about the actual numbers that are coming through on this COVID-19 thing. And without getting too far off in the weeds on it, and I'm probably preaching to the choir in this group, is, they came out and terrified the hell out of people with this thing. And I was worried too. I was the mayor. The initial numbers came out, and I remember sitting in a meeting with the health department, and we were looking at possible 10%, death rates. And I was thinking, how am I going to bury 200 to 300 people in a matter of months? I mean, it was a literal concern. I mean, that's assuming it didn't kill me too. And most likely, since I have a large family, I was going to lose somebody in my family as well. So I get it. But the numbers they used, thankfully, turned out to be drastically inaccurate. And, you know, I think we all know somebody, we've all lost somebody probably, everybody in this room in the last year. And, you know, I just buried somebody probably a month ago, my cousin's wife. So, I get it, but this is, at this point with the information that we have, I don't think it's really disputable that this was, you know, at least elements of our government were involved in the financing of the manufacture of this bioweapon, where it came from. Nobody wanted to admit that it came from China, where it came from. Everybody wanted to bash Trump because he kept calling it the Wuhan virus, which, you know, I mean, we all know to be true at this point. And why it was done, I don't really know. In the end, what will be the end result from it? I mean, they've been able to cramp down on the American people like never before. And I will say, that's why this group here is more important than ever. You know, before we were just kind of, it was just kind of a pushing match about, you know, I want to be able to carry this kind of gun. And you, I mean, with this kind of lockdown, you can only assume that the next chip to fall will be the one that defends all the others, and that's the second. And so it's more important than before to me to be vigilant about watching, making sure that, you know, if nothing else, our guys like Ken up at the state can wall us off and say, we're just not going to comply. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, if we can do it with marijuana, we can do it with our Second Amendment, we can do it with all kinds of things. If we can nullify federal law with marijuana, which, whether you like it or not, is a thing, and it happened, and it is happening, it makes a bigger point. If we can do it that, if they come after our guns, we can do the same thing. Your laws don't matter here. The manufactured here, sold here, stays here. I've actually suggested it to our friend Matt Pinnell and Kevin Stitt that we need to look at our food supply with this same eye, if you will. You know, when this thing first started happening, I realized we were going on these toilet paper shortages and this craziness. Well, it's just a matter of time before we go on food shortages. I mean, and it's a little more important than toilet paper, if you will. So, you know, I walked out, I was on the phone with the lieutenant governor, and I said, you know, I walk out my front door, and I was literally walking out, and I said, most of the time I can see corn, cattle, wheat, goats, chickens, eggs, you name it. In our community, I said, we put it on a rail car, send it to Kansas City to be put in a can, to be put on a semi, to be shipped back to us. It doesn't make any sense. At one point, it probably did, with the cost of, the way they're cracking down on heating fuels and you know, crude, etc. It doesn't make sense anymore. This is something I think as a state we need to consider and look at, especially with them hemorrhaging CARES money, printing money like wildfire. We should be thinking about strategic things with our food as well, because, you know, that's when people really lose it, is when you start getting hungry. So that was something I suggested. I'm suggesting, since Ken's sitting here, just putting it in the wheelhouse. You know, if you're up there and you hear something, some bill or something. I tried to help with Pfeiffer. I think it was 2 years ago. Ran one bill. There were sister bills. One was, you may be able to help me on this. One was for milk and dairy, and the other one was for beef, and
we ran one.
I think the beef one passed. That's it.
Farm to market.
Exactly.
Farm to market sales.
Yes.
And
And there were two bills in there. One of them passed, and then one of them didn't get heard. I shouldn't say it failed. It didn't get heard, because I was messaging Eccles like, "Here's this bill," you know. So it was just something, you know, that to me seems important amongst all the frivolous things that we kind of pass sometimes. Seems like something that we should consider. So if you ever get the chance and you're talking to somebody other than Ken, I've already put it in his head, you might suggest it, because I think it's going to be important later. I hope that it's not, but the way things are going, I don't know. So anyway, that was a good idea. Ken, go ahead.
One thing that wasn't mentioned, and I know you were running short on time, Jared, was where is Oklahoma today with critical race theory?
Yeah, go ahead. Come on.
Just back and forth between you and I, you know, that's legislation, I think it was 1517.
Yeah, to prohibit teaching.
Teaching critical race theory in Oklahoma. So where does it stand today? The intention was for Superintendent Hoffmeister to write the rules and get them out to public education. Here's what you can and cannot do. We've been waiting on her to do that for 6 months. Another letter went out to her last week from our education committee, and a couple of senators signed on to it also to tell her to get off her butt.
Get it done.
Get it out to the schools. It's damn near Christmas holiday.
Yeah, it's
They
crazy.
still don't have the guidance.
Yeah. Amen.
From our school superintendent, state school superintendent, of what schools can and cannot really do.
And a lot of these school systems are thankful they don't have that guidance, because they're basically ignoring a law passed by our legislature and signed by the governor to prohibit teaching of it. OEA and NEA are backing the other side on this.
No.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, there's numerous court cases pending. ACLU is involved, the American Communist Liberty Union. Yeah, and that's not the only law that y'all pass that's being ignored or
Usurped.
usurped. Yeah, good word. So that's kind of,
Maybe,
if I was in the legislature, that would make me really mad.
maybe it needs to be resolved in this session.
If you pass some good legislation, a lot of times you think, well, this doesn't need any teeth because it's common sense. And
Yeah.
this is what the people want, this is what the legislature says you will do. And then if they don't do it, you don't really have a comeback. And some of the schools are saying, well, we don't have any rules yet. We don't, we're just out here blind.
Well, and some of them are saying, oh, well, we're not doing it, it's the superintendent who works for the school board. I mean, again, that's just some little greased legal loophole they are squeezing through. It's an endless battle, folks.
Well, luckily for us, session's rolling up again, and we can put the nails in the coffin on this deal. So has somebody considered that you're aware of, or is that something?
It came up in our caucus, our pre-session caucus. That's one of the number one issues across the state of Oklahoma in the back of people's minds.
Yep.
If you've got kids in school, grandkids in school, that's your number one concern right now.
Yeah, as it should be.
Right.
Scott?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a favor, sir. When you're out there, if you could please, you mentioned it, get some teeth in these bills.
Yeah.
I understand that, there's a law, of course you're going to follow. It's not working. And another recommendation, I just saw recently a bill for Iowa law, to hold the prosecutor, if I'm guilty of, I forget the wording of it, but basically, if they find that the prosecution is politically motivated and not legally motivated, if he's found guilty of that, then he needs to help personally be responsible. And I would like to see more elected, I don't say officials, elected employees held personally responsible for purposefully violating the law, just as we do. If I violate the law, I can be held responsible personally.
One of the bills that didn't make it this last session, House Bill 1662, burden of proof, and it was addressing that issue. There's been numerous cases. Somebody gets arrested, they're charged with murder, they have to make bail, which is either cash tied up or they're out 10% forever. They have to hire attorneys at $200 to $300 an hour, and then the morning of the hearing, the DA drops the charges after they've broken them financially. So that was one of the bills that OK2A was backing that it died from not being heard. I know this is on the list for the next session. Yes, Scott?
Something that I heard that kind of really drives it home is you may beat the rat, but you can't beat the riot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the whole point. It's punishment without any due process at all. And this whole thing with Kyle, I'll tell you what, folks, when they weren't back in 2 or 3 hours, I was sweating blood on that deal. I thought surely they were going to come back, they were going to end up compromising so they could get out of that jury room and find him guilty of something.
Worried too. I was having lunch with my wife and that came through, and I'm not too proud to admit, I watched that verdict come through. I was just seeing the lines, but just his reaction, it brought a little tear to my eye. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking, I've got a son that age, I've got sons that age. I just thought, what has happened, and that verdict was bigger than Kyle Rittenhouse. That was a verdict of whether or not we have the right to defend ourselves in a mob of violence.
They were after our rights to defend ourselves. They weren't so much after him. That kid, I saw his interview with Tucker. That kid is a sharp, well-organized kid.
Yes.
And I've watched that video probably 15 times. Did you see him doing anything that you would have criticized him on?
I'm telling you, that's a shot.
From start to finish,
Yeah.
he did exactly what he did.
Exactly. And this is a 17-year-old kid.
He never gave a media statement. He never gave a statement to the attorneys,
Yep.
or to the DA, to the officers. He never gave any statement until he spoke to an attorney. And even his, as he said in that interview, the first couple of attorneys that were hired by him were also hired, were getting paid to hold him there, or to keep him there, or to, it's insane the way he had to do that.
Are you implying that they're unethical attorneys?
You think?
I'm shocked. Before I turn the meeting over to Joshua here, I've got a couple things I need to mention. First off, as you know, over and over, I say fourth Saturday of every month without fail. Next fourth Saturday, guess what day in December that might be?
That's Christmas.
It's Christmas Day. And I was actually planning on having a meeting in the parking lot. I wasn't going to bother the church. And the entire purpose of doing it on Christmas Day is so I could run my mouth from now on forever. We have a meeting every fourth Saturday, period. Even did it last year on Christmas Day. But Stephen Phipps was nice enough to suggest we move it up a week. And when I thought about it, that was a much better idea than mine. And you'll hardly ever hear me say that about anybody else's idea.
I'll attest to that.
So next month, it's the 18th, 12 noon here. And our speaker is going to be our fourth announced U.S. Senate candidate for the GOP primary. Her name is Jessica Jean Garrison. Her father was Earl Garrison. He was a senator. Did you know him?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Certainly, Earl.
Yeah, he's a Democrat, but I got online and I scanned I only scanned 3 of his 12 years voting records. On guns and abortion, he voted right every time. So there's not many, if any, Democrats elect like that these days. Anyway, she's going to be here to speak. I met with her, actually spent about 5 hours with her, and so she will be the speaker that Saturday. My way of thinking, the more the merrier in this primary. And so spread the word. I'll have notices out and so forth. You mentioned food. I had friends in Denver. Twice they told me they went into either Sam's or Costco. There was no meat in the meat case at all. They had no meat for sale. And Denver's got what, probably 3.5 million people living there. How quick can you imagine the shelves would get cleared? Folks, they've got 3 prime ways they're going to control us, or try to control us. Food, which we just talked about. Fuel. In fact, that's why my little red Prius is out there. I call that my prepper Prius. I'm prepared for $25 a gallon gasoline if it happens. And then the other big one is energy. Brownouts. In California, they encourage everybody to buy electric cars. They had a shortage of power. They told everybody they could not plug their cars in and charge them. So it's all you want to say a joke, but it's tragic what's happened. And here at OK2A, we're doing our best to try and get that sidetracked. All right. What's that?
Can I say one thing real fast?
Real fast.
On the school board thing, December 8th is the deadline. If you know anybody that lives in Ward 2 or Ward 4 that you think is a like-minded individual, if they go register by December 8th, they can run for that office.
Good. Thank you.
I can't because it's not my district. Plus, you cannot be related by blood or marriage within the 2nd degree of a school district employee. So that rules me out also. But if you know, so go to pcps.us. Go to the section for the school board. You can see the district ward maps. If if you know anybody that lives in those areas, tell them to go freaking register and run for school board.
That's the best way to fix the school situation, quick.
You mentioned your financial status, and this new bill definitely is here to look into your bank account, take your money if they choose.
Yeah, we're not looking, we can't look at their bank account. Okay, so, like I said, we all know we got problems, folks, we're addressing them as we can. We need everyone's support, and the easiest way for you to support our Liberty efforts is to come to meetings. Have 2 in K County every month, second Tuesday, 6 p.m. at Mary's, best chicken fried steak in the county, and 12 noon, 4 Saturday here. Josh knows his deal. He's a uniformed officer, and he's been around this for a long time. Listen to what he says, folks. What he says could literally save your life. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you very much. So you guys, because of or in lieu of the Kyle Rittenhouse court case that was going on, Don Spencer has asked me to come to as many of these meetings as possible, talk to you guys about what to do, what to say, and how to handle yourselves if you're ever involved in that type of situation. You guys know that your actions aren't the only thing that you're going to be judged by, okay? How many of you would agree that you're fighting one of the biggest adrenaline rushes you've ever had in your life at that point in time, right? So are you thinking clearly right now? Do you think whatever statement you have is going to be, or you make, is going to be true and concise and have every detail that you need in it? No. Okay. Does anybody know if an officer is involved in a shooting, do you know how long they have or we have to give a statement? 72 hours. 72 hours. It takes 72 hours for that adrenaline to get out of your system. It's 72 hours for that adrenaline to get out of your system. That's why our officers have 72 hours. Guys, you have the exact same rights. You have the exact same length of time to give a statement. Take every bit of it, okay? Do not say anything to the officers, to the DA, to anybody. You talk to your attorney, you let your attorney handle it from there. Okay, I've walked people, and I've done this a few times at this meeting. I've walked people through a home invasion scenario. Okay, I don't want to eat up too much time, but I do want to touch kind of the bullet points on this. If you're involved in something, your first and foremost is to make sure you and your family are safe. Make sure that you guys are secure. Make sure that you guys are taken care of and out of harm's way. Step 2, make sure you call 911 first. If you're in a public area, if you're in your private residence, whatever the case may be, you do not want people surrounding you or the general public to call 911 and then you're having to play defense, okay? You want to be the one to call 911. You want to be able to get help on the way. If it's a public area and there's a lot of people involved, you need to give them as much detail, as much information as possible so that they know what they're coming in on. If it's just you, your family inside the house, you're going to say 4 quick statements. Who you are, where you're at. I have been the victim of a violent crime. I need police. I need an ambulance, and hang up. That's it. You're going to hang up. Don't say anything else, okay? That 911 call can absolutely crucify you. Your adrenaline's running. The longer you talk, the more likelihood you're going to get yourself into hot water. It's human nature to want to talk. It's human nature to want to tell somebody what's going on, okay? Get off the phone, okay? Who you are, where you're at. I have been the victim of a violent crime. I need police. I need an ambulance. Hang up. Don't say anything else. The first time that you give a full and complete statement is to your attorney face to face. That's it. Okay? You want to, if you're a Law Shield member, which I think most of you guys are, if you're a Law Shield member, as soon as you get off the phone with 911, you're going to call the emergency hotline. You call the emergency hotline, Robert Robles will answer the phone, and he'll get by your side. If he can't get to you, he'll dispatch one of the other attorneys that can, okay? Or whichever the closest one to you is. When the police arrive, the only statement that you give them is, I will answer any questions. I will give you whatever statement is needed as soon as I have been cleared by a physician and I have spoken to my attorney. That means you're going to go to the hospital and get yourself checked out, whether you think you need it or not, and you want to speak to your attorney. At that point in time, they are required to cease and desist any and all questions. They cannot interrogate you any further. Now, if you try to re-engage them, then it starts all over again. What does that mean? That means on the way to the hospital or the jail, if you try to strike up a conversation with that officer, or he starts saying, hey man, I can't believe you had to deal with that. I don't know what I would do if I was in your shoes. How did you handle that? And you start talking, you've just re-engaged that officer and he can start asking questions again. Okay? Keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything else. The first time that you give a statement is to your attorney face to face. That's it. Okay? Get yourself to the hospital, get yourself checked out. Number one, you have no idea what that adrenaline's going to do to you. You have no idea what that adrenaline's going to do to you physically, okay? So when you start coming down off of that, you want to make sure that you can get yourself checked out. On top of that, you're buying yourself time. Time to get your attorney to you and let him handle it from there. What Kyle did was on point. That is, he saved his own bacon because he didn't give a flamboyant statement about what happened. He didn't give a generalized statement and then three days later retract it or change it. Because if that's what you do, you're going to be branded a liar. Okay? Whatever statement you give immediately, that's going to be biblical. That's what they're going to take. And if you change any detail of that, they're going to hold it against you. Okay? Don't give them ammunition to use against you. The first time that you give a statement, again, is to your attorney. Any questions about that? I know it's hard. I know everything that's been going on is absolutely ridiculous. To us, it's common sense to be able to defend yourself and protect yourself, okay? The statements and the response that I saw to this verdict is absolutely unreal. Is absolutely unreal. I'm gonna shoot somebody next time I see that they don't have a mask on because I'm just defending myself. Are you kidding me right now? It's unbelievable. Protect yourself, protect your family. Every person has that right, okay? But don't get wrapped up. Don't start talking. First of all, if you don't know by now, the media is not your friend, okay? Is not your friend. So if they come up to you and hey, I want to tell you your side of the story. Tell me what happened. Keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. Okay? You let your attorney talk to everybody. Everybody goes through him. Okay? Let him handle it. I've been catching a lot of flack because I'm off the streets now. I now work for Piedmont schools. And like, oh, well, you're part of the problem. No, I'm trying to fix the problem. Okay? There's a lot of stuff that I've been able to stop from being enacted because I was in the position I am working for them. He's not kidding when I tell you that the schools is where it starts. You need to get involved. You need to make some changes there before we can affect anything else. Trust me, it's bad. It's really, really bad. Before I get on that, though, is there any other questions about what to say and what to do? I know we're kind of short on time. All right, how many Law Shield members, U.S. Law Shield members? If you're a member, raise your hand. All right, there's several of you that are not. Briefly, Law Shield is in a partnership with OK2A for the last 6 years. Bottom line is, when you don't want to rely on your own financial pocket to try to defend this. Terry just said it, and unfortunately, the Oklahoma County DA is very, very well known for this. Even if you're 100% innocent, he'll hold those charges over your head and keep them going, keep them going, keep them going, have you scared to death, and then the day of the trial decide, okay, we'll go ahead and drop them now. And you just spent thousands upon thousands. Anybody want to take a guess at what the average bond is just to get out for a first-time gun-related crime? Say it again. not quite that high. It's right around 50 grand, give or take. That's still $5 you're gonna have to come up with if you wanted to go through a bondsman, right?
Assuming the bondsman will take it.
Okay, yeah, assuming the bondsman will take it. On top of that, the attorney, if you want a decent attorney, I know Robert Robles is the lead attorney for U.S. Law Shield. If you were to hire him privately, it's $300 an hour with a retainer of $30,000. Okay, it's steep. It's very, very steep. Whereas Law Shield will handle all of that for you. Okay, we cover everything. And our record speaks for itself. 760, no, actually a little over 770 cases now, and we've never lost. We're very good at what we do, okay? Before, $10.95 a month is next to nothing compared to what you're looking at, all right? So before we get out of here, come talk to me and let me show you how to become a member. It takes less than 5 minutes, and you become effective. It becomes effective immediately. So I don't want to take any time. If you've got questions about what to say and what to do, I would love to talk to you about it. Questions about different laws or translations about some of these laws, I'm more than happy to talk to you. But other than that, I'm going to give it back to Terry. I'll let you.
Thank you, Josh. Josh, yeah. Josh isn't an attorney, but he's a lot easier and cheaper to talk to. One thing he didn't mention, I've been a member now, I'm coming up almost 3 years. I've had several instances where I had a legal question, and twice it didn't even apply to anything to do with firearms. I got time on the phone with the lead attorney, Robert Robles. I don't know what he charges, but I guarantee it's at least $200, maybe $300 an hour, and they charge that whether you're on the phone or sitting in front of their desk. Both times, the times I've talked to him, one time he spent 45 minutes on the phone with me. Twice, he didn't know the answer to my question. He said, I'll research it and get back to you. I know what like getting return calls from an attorney. First time he called me back in 10 or 15 minutes with the answer. The other time he called me back in 2 hours, and he apologized for it taking so long. In other words, folks, the money I've paid him, I'm probably about a break-even point just on getting free legal advice. And a couple of the times that I'd had, as I said, it didn't have anything to do with guns. I spoke to him just last week about another matter, and indirectly related to OK2A, and again, he was courteous on the phone. So it's money well spent. If you ever need to talk to an attorney, you'll get your money back. It's $200 a year?
$131.40 for the year.
Yeah.
$10.95 a month.
And if you want multi-state coverage, it's $2.95?
$2.95 a month or $35.40 for the year.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a great deal. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, don't forget.
If you have to ever get him to come to one of our meetings,
in where?
one of our meetings,
Here?
Robert, yeah, come to one.
Oh, well, there's some talk about attorneys coming to meetings. That's it's talk at this point, but there is. Do you know more about it?
I can probably make that happen. For Saturday though, that's gonna cost Law Shield quite a bit. But I can see what we can do to get if you guys really want to talk with them, I can probably make that happen.
Well, we have second Tuesday in the evening, 6 o'clock in Tonkawa. So, yeah, he's a sharp guy, and he is, without a doubt, the #1 firearms-related attorney in the state. Yeah, and if you're involved in a shooting, you call their emergency number, an attorney answers the phone, not an answering service. And I know it's much quicker in the cities, but
So we guarantee there's gonna be an attorney by your side within 2 hours.
Okay.
If it's in Oklahoma City, it's within 45 minutes.
Yes.
But out here, it's within 2 hours because it's either gonna be him coming from Oklahoma City, or it's going to be coming from Tulsa, whatever the case may be, depending on who's available. But within 2 hours, we're going to have an attorney too.
You keep your mouth shut during that 2 hours, and it could be the difference between spending the rest of your life in jail and not. So anyway, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. you don't buy this and then go out and look to get in a gunfight. I don't buy car insurance and then go out and look to get in a car wreck so I can use it. It's just the assurance. Yes.
Well, I'm just like, when it seems like a lot of crime and theft, but a lot of these store places, like, they might ban, like, employees from carrying, but sometimes it might mean the difference between, like, the store getting stolen from. Well, like, how can some of these companies
Well, everybody that owns a business can set their own policies. Thanks to OK2A, before OK2A got involved, if you went into one of those businesses with a gun, you were committing a crime and you could be arrested. Now, if the only way you commit a crime is if they ask you to leave and you refuse. And it's their business. If they don't want people wearing green shirts, that's their right.
And to answer your question, as far as they can stop you or they can tell you that they don't want you to carry a gun, but there's no legal recourse that can happen to you if you had to use that weapon in defense of yourself.
Right.
So if you're carrying concealed, okay, if you're carrying concealed, they don't know they have it, that you have it on you, and somebody comes in and you have to defend yourself, there's no sort of losing your job. That's the only thing that could happen. They could fire you, absolutely, but nothing legally can come against you as far as because you were carrying because you didn't want you to.
Terry, I got a question.
Yeah.
You said, we can set our own policy, that, business owners can set their own policy. Well, that's true to an extent. Apparently, you can't if they want to vaccinate you, then they can set. But to protect yourself, that's a different animal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you can have 6 dozen here and half a dozen there and whatever. So.
Yeah. Speaking about employees carrying, Senate Bill 730, another one that died from not being heard this year, would allow you to carry your weapon in a company-owned vehicle or in your own vehicle when you're working. Or wait, no, it's not a company-owned vehicle, is it? It's just
your vehicle.
Your personal vehicle. Yeah, they call it the Uber bill. So, again, that's any of these bills that didn't make it this session are going to be on the list for this next one. I know that much from Don. And Don gets people's attention. I bet a lot of people do not like him sitting up there in the rotunda. He's like a hawk waiting for a target. Okay, folks, thanks for coming. I appreciate it on Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everyone had a joyous and blessed Thanksgiving.
It was a good one.
And don't forget, December 18th next time, 12 noon right here.
You guys come talk to me before you guys get out of here.